within, I think it was, from 23 to about 26. And then at 26 years old, I got my door kicked in by the DEA and ended up getting sentenced to originally 13 years in federal prison. Yeah, so that's kind of like the backstory to everything.
Every single individual has a story to tell, and they're great stories that need to be heard.
I want every listener to know they have the ability to change the world.
Welcome to the 1720 podcast.
What's up, Mountain Movers? Welcome back to the 1720 podcast. This week, we have my buddy Shawn Serfass joining us. He's quickly become a really good friend. Went from not knowing you to seeing you at least weekly at this point, and it's an honor to be your friend. Shout out to our buddy Paul Ficina for introducing us. We're going to share some incredible testimony and some awesome things that you're doing out in the world. Shawn, thanks for joining us, my man.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me. This is I've followed you guys for a while. You guys are doing good stuff, so I really appreciate you letting me come on and share my story.
So Kev tells me, or you were telling me earlier that y'all became friends over like a 3-hour lunch one day. I was like, that's on brand. That sounds about right.
Yeah, we just cut through it immediately.
Yeah, and like you said, it was really cool. It was refreshing because we didn't sit down. I mean, we both work out. And we didn't sit down. There was no macho-ness. It was straight like we just started talking about our weaknesses, like literally our marriage struggles, our life struggles. Were like, it was literally, there was no tough guy, you know?
No, and it's funny. I would consider myself used to posture like that. Like, You have to puff your chest a little bit. Why should you talk to me? Like, not because of gloating, but probably because of insecurity. Yeah. I think you told me a couple weeks ago, instead of one-upping each other, we were one-downing each other.
No, I've never heard that before.
Oh, you're going through the biggest struggle.
That's right.
Oh, yeah? Well, listen to this.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's bad.
Oh, you're broken. I'm super duper broken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little riff as we have a tendency to do, but the way we usually get kicked off is just kind of a self-intro. So,
yeah.
Who's Shawn?
Cool. My name is Shawn Serfass. I grew up initially in Virginia Beach, and then when my dad retired from the Navy, my dad trained SEALs on their landings, like their LCAC landings. And then we moved to Philadelphia when he retired. And that was about 12, 13 years old. And that was about the age. So when my dad retired, he started working about a couple hours away. So I just had a lot of free time at that age. And I started to, at a young age, do things that I shouldn't have, whether it was, smoking weed here and there and drinking. And that was kind of like the start to that downhill thing. I played soccer in high school. I actually had some scholarship offers that I ruined because I had gotten in trouble. So lost that opportunity, ended up going to a Division II school and still playing a little bit, and then failing out of school because drugs had started at that point to kind of like take hold. Sorry to jump straight into the drug thing, but
that's cool. Kind of, this is how we do it, man. We're all over the place.
That's kind of like the setup for what happened. So I ended up failing out of school and calling my mom. My mom lived in Texas and my dad lived in Philadelphia. So I called my mom and said, "Mom, I need to do something different. I need to get out of here and like kind of start over." I thought if I moved away from where I was that I would be able to make a change and just changing location and not changing the type of people I was associating myself with. So I moved to Texas, and then my mom says, "You're not just going to like come down here and hang out. You got to figure out what you're going to do." So at that point I joined the Marines, and I thought that was going to be the thing. Like I went to boot camp and then came home from boot camp and went back to advanced infantry training, and I was doing awesome. Like I was a squad leader. I really felt like this was what was going to take me to get in the right direction. I was really proud of what I was doing, but I let that addiction creep back in, and one night made a dumb decision and then ended up getting drug tested and failed the drug test and got kicked out. And that was really hard. I couldn't even like tell my friends and family the truth. I like lied about what happened because I was just so embarrassed about it. So I'm back in Texas again now after getting kicked out of the Marines. So far I've lost a college scholarship, failed out of college, kicked out of the Marines. I'm just setting a tough track record so far.
Yeah.
So I'm back in Texas now, and my mom gets me a job at a car dealership selling cars, and I was good at it. I mean, I remember the first couple months, it was like tax season. I was like clearing $10,000 a month as a 23, 24-year-old kid. And I met this girl, and it was my son's mom, my first wife, and she was kind of in the hustling game, the selling drugs game. And we got together, and I really fell in love with her. And about a year or so into it, maybe only 6 months, she had some legal issues. So I was like, hey, why don't we get your stuff figured out so we can actually like pursue this relationship and not have to worry about looking over our shoulder all the time. So she did. She turned herself in and to get her stuff together. But the problem was she left me basically. And when I say this, I'm not trying to glamorize it. Like, I feel shame about all the drug dealing stuff I do. It's not like a cool thing, but she left me kind of like drug dealer in a box, like all of her customers, all of her clients, all the money, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So now at this point, I take this little small operation that she had and I start making it bigger and bigger. And within, I think it was, from 23 to about 26. And then at 26 years old, I got my door kicked in by the DEA. And ended up getting sentenced to originally 13 years in federal prison.
Jeez.
Yeah, so that's kind of like the backstory to everything.
Yeah.
That happened.
Well, let me. I have a tendency to like dig in and pry at ideas. So I got a couple questions here that I'm gonna go back to. People think about preachers' kids as being like, oh man, they were raised in a home that was straight up and down, and when they got a little freedom, it went off the rails. Is it from your experience? Is it similar if you're raised in like as a Navy brat or whatever? I think that's right. You know, like, is that the same or is that different? Really, guess what I'm getting at is like why the deviation from like the militaristic home.
It's a great question, and it's something I'm still trying to figure out. I don't think it's necessarily so much the upbringing, because my father was amazing. I mean, he did not miss. I played sports. He didn't miss an event. I mean, even when he would go to he went to Golf Storm or
Desert Storm,
and then the Gulf War or whatever. He went to both of those. But other than that, when he was home, I mean, he was super present. I had a great father, great upbringing. He had us in church. And I think that I believe that addiction is hereditary. And I know that my mother struggled with alcohol and drugs also. So I feel like it was more of that. I was kind of like uncomfortable. I still kind of struggle with this today, but now I don't use drugs to fix it. I work out, but sometimes I don't feel comfortable in my own skin, and like getting high just kind of I don't even know how to explain it. Just kind of evened me out, and where I felt like content, you know?
Yeah. Well, look, okay. So I got teenage boys, so I'm going to pick at that a little further too. It's just like, have I told you the smelling salt story, Kevin?
I don't think so.
Okay, so I'll tell a story to kind of get back to the point. But my oldest son, who's 15, he's a freshman last year and runs he runs, but at the time was running cross country, hanging out with a bunch of upperclassmen because he's actually pretty good at it. So he's running on they call it like ultra varsity because varsity's not good enough or whatever. So he's running with the ultra varsity kids, and they're about to start a race. And I know now it's just smelling salts, but he's stuck in that group with like a bunch of 18-year-old boys, and somebody pulls out their pocket, pops open these smelling salts and I don't really understand the like physiology of it, but it's basically trying to like jumpstart your mind like for the race, right? Totally legal, totally fine, but he doesn't blink at it. Pops it, passes around, it hits him, just did it. Everything's fine, but it was a really good teaching moment because there was that peer pressure around it and it just happened. But I tell that story to just say like youths, is that the right way to say it? Kids are vulnerable. Yeah. Is that part of that story? Like, how did you seek it out? Did it come to you? Like,
so that's a good question. And you're right. Kids are very vulnerable when it comes to stuff like that, especially when they're with older classmen. And I think that was kind of one of my things. I think when I first moved to Philadelphia, it was back when we actually used to play outside. Remember that?
Back in the day.
So we like ride our bike around, and that's where you knew where everyone was at because all the bikes were in the yard or whatever.
Yes.
So there was older kids that I had been hanging out with, and there was just one time an invitation like, hey, you guys, we're going to the woods to smoke weed. Do you want to come? And I was like, I don't know, but yeah, let's go. And like when we moved to Philadelphia, my dad was an athletic director at a school about 2 hours away. So my dad would literally have to leave at like 5 a.m. and didn't get home till like 7 p.m. So I just had all this freedom. And I feel like that was a big part of why I started going down that direction too. And it's not like anything against my dad. He had to do what he had to do to support us, you know. But I think that freedom and older kids, older friends, you know, just trying to do, you know, not to be like, no, I don't want to go do that. So peer pressure is definitely a huge part of, I think, why I started.
Yeah. Go ahead.
The one thing that I didn't know from your story is the whole moving to Texas thing. When I was given a job opportunity in 2010, one of the biggest decisions why I decided to move here was, all right, I can run away from that crowd and refresh. It's on them, not me. And then found out, no. You can't escape by where you're at. It's who you are,
So
you know,
true.
and you find out in the mirror, like, oh boy, I've been the problem. But unfortunately, you and I had to learn the hard way.
Yep.
Some people kind of get redirected and smacked out of that before they go too far. But
Yeah, no, it's true. You have to, it's your thinking. I found the same type of people I was hanging out with in Philadelphia in Texas within a week.
yeah, exactly.
Within a week, literally. It's crazy.
Yeah. So DEA knocks on the door. Let me zoom back to that part of the story.
So
Crazy.
yeah, and I had my son there. My son was with me. I never kept any sort of drugs or money or anything at the house. So they kick the door and they don't find anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking like, I'm
Got him.
important or like I'm tough, you know, like, oh, they don't have anything. I didn't realize they had it. The feds, when it comes to the federal police, is completely different than what the state can do. They can pretty much do whatever they want.
Yeah.
The DEA and the feds, they can just take someone's, word of like something they say and they can use that as factual. So they had enough on me of a guy that I was getting it from. He got in trouble, and what he told them that I was getting from him over 6 months, they actually charged me. That's how much I got charged with, was with what they call ghost dope. I never had it, and they never caught it on me. They literally just charged me with what the guy said that I got from him. It's crazy.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I thought they usually aim upstream for that stuff, not downstream.
Well, I was like the last person on the case, and you're right. Normally they would. I was like the last. I got pulled over leaving his place, and there was with a small amount on me at this point, and they actually gave me a little card with a lady's name on it, like a detective's name on it. They're like, "We're going to let you go. Just call this number." And I was like,
huh? This is weird.
Yeah, like, okay. Yeah, of course I'll call this number. I'm literally driving home like, thank you, Jesus. I can't believe that you let me go. And I throw the card out the window. And which probably wasn't the smartest thing to do. But that's why at that point, a couple months later, is when they kicked the door in, because I didn't, cooperate.
Right.
So
I don't need to, but we can, if, like, yada over that to, like, I'm sure there's a trial or you plea in or something, right?
Yeah, for sure. So after that, because remember I said my wife was already incarcerated, right?
Uh-huh.
Well, she had actually gotten out, and then we had my son, and then after that, I don't like to put her business up, but she had to go back for another thing, for like a probation violation. And at this point, I have my son by myself, and they know that after all their investigations. So they let me out like that next morning, like right away. They let me out, and they put me on like pretrial release or pretrial bond, something like that. I didn't even have to put up any money because I had never been in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
I had no violence. I had nothing, like there was nothing on my record. I was not like a flight risk. They knew my whole family was here. So that was probably the worst 5 months of my life, was sitting there waiting, because I know I'm like, man, maybe I'll just get probation. Maybe. And then after doing all the research and talking to my lawyers, the feds, when it comes to criminal, doesn't have probation. Like you have to have like jaywalked to get federal probation. You know what I mean? So the first time I get sentenced, it's to 13 and a half years.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I broke down. It was hearing that, I was like, man, the only thing I could like relate it to is, okay, my son is 1, he'll be 14 when I get out. I'm like, at least I'll have a couple years before he's an adult. Like I was just trying to make the best of that.
Yeah.
I got really lucky that once I got sentenced, they sent me, my first prison was Oakdale, Louisiana. And I filed an appeal because I just spent a bunch of time in the law library, like trying to figure out, what can I, like, there's no way this is right. Like, there's no way I deserve 13 and a half years for my first time in prison. They exaggerated all the amounts. They're charging me with, I did have a firearm in my house the time that they came. No drugs, no money, a firearm that was legally mine. It was legally kept. There was no drugs or money. And they actually charged me with that. But once I got back in front of the courts, they, on my appeal from when they took that off. And then this was actually the time that Obama gave everybody that was in prison for drugs 2 points off. Like they were trying to do some sort of like disparity in sentencing type thing. Yeah. So that got me down to 7.5 years. And then I did a drug program and then I'm getting out in 6.5 years. But I say all that, prison was absolutely the best thing that ever happened to me. I mean that obviously my son and my family are, but as far as like life situations, like, because for one, I formed a relationship with Jesus, like with God. I really like found God in prison. I know it's cliche, but man, it worked. And while I was in there, I literally focused the whole 6.5 years on what can I do while I'm in here, so when I get out, this wasn't just a complete waste of time. So I got an associate's degree from East Arkansas Community College. I got 4 personal training certifications. I was even in seminary school for a little bit, but I was like, this isn't for me because I can't remember that Leviticus is the son of like whatever. I don't even Leviticus is a book of the Bible, but you know what I mean? Like the genealogy, I gave up on like the second chapter. I was like, this isn't for me. But it was just in the drug program, it was a great experience. So when I was in there, I was working out. I lost 100 pounds working out in prison, and I had 5 or 6 older gentlemen that were like lawyers, doctors. I mean, like that had been in there for some sort of fraud or something like that. And they saw that I was getting these results, and they were like, "Hey man, can I come work out with you? Can you help train me?" And that's where the fitness stuff started. So I had like these guys that I was training in prison, and the one guy, the doctor said, "Shawn," and his name's Sanford Myers. We called him Doc. This guy really set me up like for life. He said, "Shawn, you're so good at this." He goes, if you something you might want to do in the future, I'll pay for any certifications you want to get while you're in here. So he actually paid for me to get 4 certifications. He paid for all of them, which I didn't have, a lot of money coming in at all. So they kind of set me up in a good direction,
Yeah.
Some people, so outsider looking in at a hard time like that, they say like, man, you're going to get your master's in criminal activity. So like you probably had that opportunity to be while in there as well. Like what was it after you got saved that you started hanging out with the right people? Like what drew you to like, no, I'm going to work on me. So then, I'm missing 6 years of life with my family, but I'm going to make the next 50 the best ever.
It was, and you're right. There's a lot of people go to prison just to become better criminals. Like It's crazy. No, right away, I knew. I mean, I'm talking the day I went to prison. I joined a Bible study. Like, I didn't even know that much about God except when I was a kid, I went to church, and I never had a relationship. It was just you go to church and sit there still and eat dad's candy while, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't really.
Scribble on a piece of paper.
Exactly. Yeah, that was my, relationship with God at that point. So right away I got into a Bible study, and, I had great family. I had so many great people in my life. And I really just let addiction take hold. When I was selling drugs, never, ever, ever did I think to myself, like, this is my career. I'm a drug dealer. Like, it was more of I've got an addiction, and I'm going to have to figure out how to feed my addiction because I can't afford it. So I never was like stacking money to be this like kingpin, like at all.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever even had huge sums of money. You know what I mean? It was just so it was really easy for me to how do I get focused at this point? I didn't really have to deal with the whole like become a better criminal mentality,
Yeah. Did you have like that profound? So went in studying the Bible, but then the being saved day.
Yeah. I don't know if I would say like I can't pinpoint an actual day. One of my favorite things in the world became to go outside on the rec yard and just walk laps on the rec yard and just like talk to God, like staring up at the ceiling. Cause I realized my whole life I've kind of looked down, even when I'm driving or walking, like at that steps in front of me. And I never really was able to like look up and realize like life as opposed to, you know what I mean? I don't know if that makes sense.
It's a great like illusion to all of it. That's excellent. I know exactly what you're talking about.
So it's like, I just lived my whole life just kind of looking down and what's my next step. And I used to then I would just go out into the rec yard and just walk, man. And that was a big part of how I lost that weight, but I don't know. I'm not sure if that even answers your question, but I don't think
some people have a moment, whether you're in prison or not, where like you see something, you hear something, you're stirred awake. There's like a moment.
Yeah.
And it sounds like maybe perhaps for you, it was just incremental closeness leading to a moment of like, yeah, that's where I am on this. This is what I believe.
I think that's kind of how it was. One thing that did happen when it comes to, being in prison is I started a Bible study when I got to Oakdale, Louisiana, and I didn't care what their crime was, what their race was. I mean, that was irrelevant to me. And so I had a nice little Bible study going, 10 men. We were getting together on like Tuesdays. Well, one time these guys, I have a bald head because I have a receding hairline, not because I'm like run with those guys in prison with bald heads. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And I had these guys come up to me. I don't know if they were some Aryan thing. And they were like, hey, I know you don't run with us, but you look like us. So you can't be doing this. Like about having Bible studies with just different races and different. And I was like, well, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to stop this.
Uh-huh.
I said a word that I shouldn't have said to the guy in prison. If you say the B word to somebody, be ready to fight. And I didn't even know that at this point, but I was like, you know what I mean? So I made a comment to this guy that I shouldn't have. And they actually made me get up and go to my cell, and they followed me up there. One of the guys came in the room and 2 of them stood at the door and closed the door.
Yeah.
And the guy tried to like, I don't know what he was thinking. He didn't win. Like I did, I actually won. But the problem was and I don't say that to be a tough guy, but then his two brothers came in and stomped me. Like all three of them beat me up at the same time.
Yeah.
But I never stopped that Bible study, and they never said anything to me again. So I think it was because they saw that I was willing to, you know what I mean? I wasn't just going to but that's something that I'm kind of proud of.
Heck yeah.
Not the fighting stuff so much, but the fact that I stood my ground on this. And that Bible study, when I left that prison, was strong. Like there was 30, 40 men, and it was something special. So that was pretty cool.
Well, that's like a real, I'll linger there, because that's like a real moment where, like when you read through the New Testament, you see like the actual persecution of the church, right?
Yeah.
Tons of those people died for the faith. And we have the privilege in America that, people don't oftentimes come into our church and yank us out and rough us up,
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
But you had an actual moment to stand for it.
Yeah.
As opposed to just saying you know what, Rand, I'm gonna lay down here. This is actually not what I believe. I'm gonna let that go.
Yeah. And people do that,
Yes.
They don't want any confrontation. And I didn't want any confrontation. I was more scared of getting in trouble in the prison. I've never been a big risk troublemaker type. In school I might have talked too much, but I was worried about bringing a bad report card or having the teacher call my dad,
Yeah.
So I wasn't this really rebel. I don't know.
Yeah, it's this is college for you, right? So self-improvement,
Yeah.
there's sprinkles of entrepreneurship, obviously leadership, obviously serving others. And so 6.5 years later, we'll get to the good stuff. You come out a different person.
Dude, I've never thought of it like that, but those 6 years I spent in prison, it was like college. I was getting good experience. If you want, when you go to prison, or if, hopefully, God, no one listening ever has to deal with that, but
Huge advocate.
Yeah. No, but definitely not. Being away from your family is the worst thing in the world.
When you go, it's preordained. Oh yeah, I was looking forward to that.
When you go to prison. No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say it like that. Hopefully you don't. But you have two options. You can sit there and feel sorry for yourself and blame the government and blame police, or you can say, I've made these decisions and now I have to deal with the repercussions of it. And that's just kind of my philosophy on it.
I mean, what's your take? Well, that's not the right way to start that, but not everybody in prison's like that.
No, very rare.
Is it okay? That's my question. Is it rare to be like that, or most people in there just lamenting their frustration and be getting their GED, or what'd you say, getting a master's in crime or whatever? Most people like that.
Oh man, there's more drugs in prison than there. I felt like it was easier to find drugs in prison than it was on the streets.
Really?
And I didn't ever mess with them or touch them at all in there. Yeah, the COs will bring them in through the mail. They'll put stuff on paper. It's
interesting.
Prison is definitely not this you have access to. People have cell phones in there. I was just too scared to get in trouble and risk going to a higher security facility. I didn't want to risk that.
Right. I mean, I don't know how it all works, but you risk your time, you risk your location, you risk your relationships, there's snatching you out and give all that.
All that, yeah.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
No. And I was, I got to, luckily my mom would bring my son once a month to come see me. So we were able to maintain, I could call every day and talk to him.
Oh, cool.
So I was able to maintain the best type of relationship you can at that point. They would do Father's Day things where the kids could come and hang out with you for the day. And because the second prison I went to was Forest City, Arkansas. And that was a camp. They call it a camp. There's no fence around it. At any time I could have just walked home.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's because the security level I was. No violence, no, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You earned it.
Yeah, yeah. That's
right.
Yeah.
Well,
That's a good,
no, it's true. They're not going to put everybody in there.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. So that was kind of a cool situation to be able to be, and that's why I was able to have all the to take advantage of a lot of the programs that I was able to, is because I was in that low security.
Right.
Sometimes you can't do that when you're in higher up securities.
Yeah.
So that was
the yard's not a fun place to be.
Yeah,
you're not walking around and staring up at God.
No, not at all. And those higher superior, no,
yeah,
you're not. You're trying to hide and stay away from any altercations and
yeah. All right, so there's a get out day, right? I don't know how that works, but I mean, I'm guessing the day, right? It's X day, whatever.
So you don't know exactly, right? Because I went to RDAP program, residential drug abuse program. The last year I was in, and it took a year off my sentence. And this was in Texarkana. This was I learned more in those 9 months about myself, through counseling, digging into things in my childhood. I wouldn't even call it a drug program. I'd call it a rational thinking program.
Okay.
It's all about how we justify criminal activity, how we justify and it doesn't even have to be criminal activity, how we justify things that we're doing that we know we shouldn't. You know, it doesn't even have to just be criminal. It could be things that we know we shouldn't be doing, right?
Yeah.
And how we can talk ourselves into being okay. And so this program, it was amazing. It was amazing for me to just learn how to, when I start, relapse triggers or, starting to fall for my own lies, because I could lie to myself and talk myself into doing pretty much anything if I'm not, paying close enough attention to my excuses that I'm telling myself.
What was it called? RDAP?
Residential Drug Abuse Program. Yeah, RDAP.
That's interesting. Because I would think that primary criticism of the criminal justice system is they're not actually rehabilitating people to get back out there when they're. That sounds like completely wrong. The thought I just had. Like I feel like that was a game changer.
It was 100% a game changer. And I think that when you hear that, it's more of a state jail type thing where they're just putting you in an air conditioned building and you're just there for 7 years and then you get out and you haven't done anything.
Yeah.
But also a lot of people don't take advantage of the stuff that's in there. There's a lot of people. So the program RDAP, you actually had to what they call pull people up. So let's say we were in the dorm and I saw you steal an extra apple from the chow hall. Okay. We were actually had to call those people out in front of the whole community. Hey, Kevin, I'd stand up. Hey, Kevin, I'm pulling you up because I saw you steal an apple from the chow hall. And then you would have to say, yes, I did. You'd have to accept responsibility. And then, you don't get in trouble for it, but it's just about accountability and stuff like that. So it's really cool. So a lot of people wouldn't do the program because they called it snitch school or you know what I mean? Because there's so many people that are so adamant about that. And first of all, I've seen this now after a lot of people get in trouble. That whole man code or that bro code about like, oh, we're not going to tell on each other. Almost everybody tells on each other when they get in trouble. That is like, you know what I mean? Like literally, it's who can tell first in the federal system because who's going to get the most time off their sentence.
Mm-hmm.
So I was the last person to go down on my case. So by the time I went, I'm not saying I would have, but there was no one left to tell on or anything. I'm not saying I would have, but it was like I didn't have the opportunity. They didn't present me with any opportunity like that because a lot of people on my sins got substantial time off for, telling on people. But
it does seem like what's a snitches get stitches?
Yeah.
Like that seems like a glamorized machismo mafia style.
So maybe it was true back with like the mafia stuff where those guys were really, but.
Well, and I think there's
yes.
Not even a fine line. There's a fence between snitching and gossip.
Yes.
Right? And snitching, I'm talking about like calling something out, or even in leadership when you privately tell somebody like, hey, you're kind of messing up. That does a good thing for him. But if Shawn's messing up, but I'm just blabbing to Stuart about it while Shawn's not around, that just stokes a terrible fire.
If you have a friend and they're doing something wrong and you're just sitting back and don't say anything to them about it, you know what I mean? That's because like the first way I feel like you kind of said it was, hey, I know this guy's doing something wrong, so I pull him to the side and I talk to him about it. Yeah, I think the snitching side of it is more of I'm going to tell him this guy so I can get something out of it.
Yeah, right.
It's a little bit different than just like pulling a friend up and being like, hey, buddy, we need to work on this, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
So it's almost like it's different than accountability because this person's getting something out of it, you know?
Yeah. So go, yeah, but was it RDAP?
Yeah.
RDAP's a game changer, man.
So it was a game changer and it was awesome. The counselors that I had were top notch. I'm talking, they're just government Bureau of Prison employees, but literally life changed by some of the people. Some of the things I was able to dig into, that's where I learned about being vulnerable with other men is so important. Mm-hmm. Like if you're not willing to, if you don't have men in your life that you can go to and say, hey man, I'm struggling with this, no matter how embarrassing it is or what, it's hard to hold yourself to that level. You know what I mean? If you don't have those accountability partners. And that's kind of what we have talked about in our lunches and stuff about having people around that you can share stuff like that with. Sorry, I keep going back to this. But anyway, so RDAP's over and then I get my date, right? Because so as soon as RDAP's finished, they take the year off and then I get my date. So they send me to Avenue J in Fort Worth, which is a halfway house. And I have a 6-month halfway house sentence, right? So you have to, and it's actually still considered part of your prison sentence. Mm-hmm. So I'm at the halfway house and I get a job working at a gym in West Fort Worth called Fit Body Boot Camp. And the owner, Freddie Jenkins, my mom used to work at the gym, had also been in trouble before. So he was like, no, I understand. It's okay. You have a felony. Like, come work for me.
Yeah.
So I'm training for him for a month or two. And then there's this little blonde girl there that comes and she starts working out. And I don't even remember how to talk to girls at this point. Like, I swear. It was
nothing but bros for 6.5 years.
So awkward, dude. And so I just did that thing where you like kind of stand in the corner and stare at a girl long enough till she realizes that you're interested. You know what I mean?
Hey, nice hair.
Like, I literally didn't even know. Wait till I got another story. It's way more embarrassing. So the owner, I say something to the owner.
It's tough to beat that one.
Oh, I got one way worse.
Okay.
So I tell the owner, I'm like, hey man, I kind of like that girl. Like, what's the rules on like dating and stuff like that? And he goes, well, right now, you know, I'm going to introduce you to her, talk to her as a friend. If you decide down the road that you actually like want to be with this girl, then we'll cancel her membership and she can still work out, but she won't be a member. So you're not actually like dating a member.
Yeah. Okay.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
So we do that. We start talking. I don't know how to use social media. Okay. So she found me on Facebook and friend requested me on Facebook. And it's so embarrassing. And she was actually had a boyfriend at the time. And I didn't know, like, when you post on someone's wall, I thought that was like sending a private message, right?
Okay.
Oh, yes.
I'm
here for this.
Yes.
So I didn't say nothing bad or anything, but I just put like a little corny little meme that said like beast mode on, like a little light switch because I was her trainer, right? It was the corniest thing in the world. And she left it up. She was so sweet. And like she said her boyfriend was like, who is this guy? And she's like, I don't know, just my trainer or whatever. A month after that or so, her and her boyfriend break up and me and her start talking and get more serious. And she's like, why don't we open our own gym? Because she's like, you're bringing all these people into this gym. I'm so proud of what I'm doing. I'm in the mall passing out cards. Like I'm helping people like get in shape. And one of my favorite things as a person, and you'll see like further on, is building confidence in other people. Like I love that. I love to see somebody like especially you see these women that start to lose weight. They start walking different. They start carrying their head up high. They're not looking, to me, I get like that. If I could do that for a living and just do that, that's enough for me. Like I love seeing people build confidence.
Yeah.
So she sees how proud I am of this. And she says, you know, why don't we open our own gym? And I laugh and I was like, well, right now I have a 490 credit score and $17 in my savings account. I said, like,
What can we get?
I said, it sounds really fun, you know, because in prison, you're always like, when I get out, I'm going to open gyms or I'm going to buy a Maserati, like just whatever. People are saying far-fetched stuff. So you don't really take it very seriously. But anyways, so our relationship gets more serious. Now, this is December of 2016. And she says again, Shawn, I really think that we should open a gym. Like, I really think we should do this. And I don't know this about her at this point. And she goes, and I said, Christy, you know I make $12.50 an hour. Like, you know my financial situation. I have my son. Like, she goes, I have the money. And I was like, what? Like, I had no idea that she had the money. I didn't know she had money like that. That had nothing to do with why I was interested in this girl. And she, like that, like a week later, she paid the franchise fee and for a franchise that we first started out with. And I got out of prison in June of 2016. June of 2017, we had our first gym open. And dude, like, I want to say it's a total God thing. It just took off. That first location, dude, we had every bill paid in our overhead and paying our mortgage at home within being open for 2 full months.
That's insane.
Isn't that crazy? And I'm talking it's $20,000 a month in overhead.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of members. And I went to this park. And I got on Facebook. Again, I would never do this now because now I care too much. But I was just on Facebook Live, like, free workouts in Catherine Rose Park. I'm doing this free workouts. Come work out. Dude, I had like, while the gym was being built out, I had like 50, 60 people coming to this park and just working out with me for free.
Yeah, right.
And then when we got to about a week out of the gym opening, I said, hey, you know, we're going to offer you guys a charter membership of our gym, cheapest rate you'll never get. And we had like 60, 70 members sign up before we even opened. That was like what really helped us.
Yeah.
And I didn't know marketing like that. I just thought, hey, let's like make a splash in the town here and just see what happens. So that gym has been open now 7 years. But I don't know, that's kind of confusing on the story. So after 2 years of it being open and the gym was running itself, amazing trainers, I didn't need to be there every day all the time. I really started praying, like, God, what is my next step? Like, what is the next thing you want me to do? Is it another gym? Like, what am I supposed to do? And about a week later, I got an invite from the head homicide detective of Arlington Police Department to come share my testimony at an alternative school in Arlington. So all these kids have been kicked out of school for fighting or drugs or something. So I went there and I wore I'm really into sneakers. So I wore like my really like Dior Jordan 1s. They're like super bougie, right?
Yes,
So,
they are.
So I wear those, and I have these kids are so excited about the shoes. Like it just like they would not. I didn't even know I was going to get that response, but these kids are like, "Oh, look at his shoes!" And like, where'd you get start showing me pictures of their shoes like on their phones and like coming up to me and talking about shoes. And so I share my testimony with these kids. There's 33 kids, and these kids were so attentive, man, like asking amazing questions. You wouldn't think that these are the kids that have been kicked out of school for getting in trouble.
Yeah, I was going to make sure we stop down and hit that again. Like these are the kids who,
exactly.
Someone this is going to be controversial. Someone gave up on them. They're like, this kid's got to go.
100%. And that's the next.
Yeah.
As the counselor said at the end, how many of you guys have a male like role model or father figure in your lives? 3 of the 33 kids raised their hand.
Oof.
Dude, this is no exaggeration. I cried, like cried on my way home because of just how these boys, like I could tell they were thirsty for a male like interaction. You know what I mean? Like I was crying because I was like, God, okay, like I'll do it. Knowing nothing about nonprofits, knowing nothing about anything like that, I went straight to a like Swift Filings, which is like this thing online. Hired the people to help me, set up this nonprofit and like get it all going. And it was like it took 3 months to get it back, but I didn't even have the nonprofit status going. And I started pulling in my resources of teachers and principals that were in the gym that worked out at our gym. And one of them gave me the most, Thelma Foster, she gave me the most amazing recommendation to the principal of Mansfield's alternative school, which is BIC. It's called the Phoenix, but BIC is the Behavior Intervention Center. I went in there. Have you ever seen the movie The Shack?
No.
Okay. So at the end of the movie The Shack, God is this like black woman, right? Like this African-American woman. I'm not sure what.
Yeah.
And she, it's crazy because it's not really saying like God is this black woman, but it's like this loving, and it's a good Christian movie. It's not like some like, but anyways, this lady reminded me of her. Like this lady that was like poured into these boys. Her husband was a pastor. She was like just the most amazing woman. And she set us up in that school to where we could come every Friday and talk to the kids. And she would like, so it just kind of was like the start of the mentorship program.
Of Second Chance mentors?
Yes. And so the gym is called Second Chance Fitness.
Okay.
And the mentorship is Second Chance Mentors. So that's kind of like the play on that, the whole Second Chance thing.
Was it Second Chance Fitness from December 2016?
Oh, no, sorry. You're right. It was originally called Fit Body Boot Camp.
Oh, so you started your own of what you were working or a trainer at. You left that one and started. I got
exactly.
Okay.
Then COVID hit. Okay. And when COVID hit, because this franchise is based out of California, they wanted to take all the workouts and stuff outside. And they started going in like a different direction. And at that point I called and said, hey, like, I'm not using any of your marketing. I'm not using any of this stuff. I do all my own stuff. Is there anything that we could work to get out of this? And they gave me a settlement offer and they made me pay out of my non-compete.
Yeah, right.
Like I had to pay to get out of the non-compete, but it was worth it. It was a fair deal. They treated me great. They understood they were not, Texas has different rules than California. So they understood that why we were trying to go a different direction. So that's when we switched over to Second Chance Fitness. So
that's a bold switch in the middle of COVID too, because gyms are empty.
Shut down.
We got shut down for 2 months, which was luckily we had such an awesome community that our members stayed, with us through that. We were doing this online. It was not quality. It was not quality. I would wake up at 5:00 every morning and record a Facebook Live workout and put it in our members group, and then they could do it. And if they did it, they post a sweaty selfie underneath, and then we'd pick a winner each day.
Yeah,
just anything to be able to provide value because I still had a $10,000 a month rent to pay. Our landlord did not give us a penny break on the rent during that. And he got like $500,000 in PPP funds, but we couldn't get a couple $1,000 break, That's still frustrating to
me.
But.
Sensing a bit of frustration around
sorry.
that. Yeah, sorry.
Did those people continue to pay their membership even though it was just through Facebook?
Yes.
That's freaking awesome.
Yeah. And pretty much everybody did. We had a few people cancel. And if someone texted us and said, Shawn,
I didn't swing it.
Yeah, dude, no worries. I'm just going to cancel your payment when you get, when we get back together. Let's like,
yeah.
But we weren't like, we didn't make a lot of money, but we were able to pay the bills and keep the doors open.
Yeah.
So
I remember when the gym was stripped from me when COVID started, that was a disaster. And that's when everybody started shopping for fitness products. So you could, like weights were the new gold of currency.
Weights went from $1 a pound to $3 a pound.
Dude, brutal.
I feel like it hasn't come back down, right?
They're just starting to. Or what you can do now is buy all the equipment from the people that built their home gyms are now selling their equipment. Because I took every piece of equipment I have in my little one-on-one trainer section into my gym the first day of COVID. I didn't use it a single time. And then I had to move it all back to the gym.
Yeah.
I was like, this is ridiculous.
You know how many elastic bands I snapped across my back? Because I'd keep ordering them and I'm like doing like flies and whack across the back. Man, when are the gyms opening?
That's funny because I've seen that happen so many times. Bands break and
the snapped bands.
Yeah.
So all right. So take me back to Bic, right? Because I feel like there's great stories there.
Yeah.
So when is this timeline? Y'all get plugged in down there?
So I want to say 2020. It was like the end of COVID, right? Because going into Bic was still super like they didn't make you wear masks, but they were all wearing masks.
Yeah.
You know, like so it was still the end of that. So that's when the Bic stuff started. So we go every Friday, share my testimony, play a game. Have a little contest where we give them a gift card or whatever. And that's where the kids would apply for the program if they wanted to be in it. Once they apply for the program, we reach out to their parents, do our little due diligence, make sure the parent signs a waiver, said it's okay. And then the kid has 5 stipulations every month that they have to do. They have to do 2 hours of community service. They have to have a sit-down meeting with their mentor where they do short-term, long-term goals. They have to be passing their classes. They have to have good attendance. And I think I kind of put 2 together. The sit-down meeting with a mentor and short-term, long-term goals is really like 2 separate things, but they happen at the same time.
Yeah.
So those 5 things. Every 4 months, if they do that every month, we take them to this, retro shoe Jordan store and we buy them a pair of retro Jordans. I mean, $250, $300 shoes that that all comes in off of donations. So we've done a pretty good job of bringing in donations. Nothing to like, we're still to the point where we have to keep scrambling. It's not like we're like set. But luckily my aunt and uncle really like poured into us in the beginning and like set us up in a good way to be able to like help these boys. And it's just been awesome, dude. We take them so one of our good friends is the strength and conditioning coach for the Rangers. So he'll give us tickets whenever we want to take them there. We've taken them to a couple Mavericks games. We've taken them to Topgolf. We obviously do a monthly community service, which is awesome. We'll do like either homeless clothing drives, or we adopted a highway and we'll go and clean up the highway. We'll do like food shelters, like a food bank thing. And this last Saturday, which is really cool, is I don't know if you guys are from here. We're like barely old enough. Do you remember Kenny the Shark Gant from the Cowboys? He was like he was like a safety for the Cowboys. He won 2 Super Bowls with them when Emmitt Smith was there.
Okay.
Yeah, plenty of listeners know.
Okay.
Yeah. Some people are nodding up and down. We're nodding back and forth.
Yeah. Like 95, 96-ish, I think is when he won his Super Bowls. He came, I met him at a golf tournament that he put on. And he came and spoke to the boys. And at first I was super worried. I was like, this guy's, in his like late 50s. Our boys are 16. Like, how is this going to work? Dude, he was absolutely amazing, man. Cause he poured in, like and this isn't like an important part of it. I'm not saying this for like clout or anything, but most of our boys are Black or Hispanic, right? And he spent a lot of time showing these boys like, look, I almost fell for the oh, that's not for me type theory. He's like, but then I learned to dream. And he told these boys, he goes, you are able to do anything you want. Don't allow skin color or economic background or to keep you from dreaming and reaching your dreams. Like everything that you can be successful is for you. You just have to go for it. And it was just awesome. Like it couldn't have been any better. So it was cool. He came and did that for, a guy like that who's pulled in a lot of directions. He let the boys try on his Super Bowl ring.
Yeah, it's so cool.
It was really freaking cool. Yeah. So Kenny, I don't know if you happen to hear this, dude, but thank you so much for coming because it was a huge
Kenny
blessing.
Gant's a big listener.
That's a bit we do now when somebody's like, hey, if you're listening, they're talking about like a head football coach of the Saints. We're like, oh yeah, definitely.
Can't wait to get a text from Kenny like, hey man, appreciate the shout out again.
I've been waiting 140 episodes for that.
Yeah, that's true.
How many kiddos are in the class? 10-ish it looks like from your social media?
Yeah, right now we have 14.
14.
And normally we can get about 10 to an event.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's always someone gone or transportation's our biggest issue, trying
man.
to figure out how to get all the kids together because they don't really have rides to get places. So that's normally our biggest issue, is trying to figure out how to get the kids to whatever the events are. But
yeah.
How are you filling mentors? Like, how does that work?
Good question. So as of right now, we have about 7 or 8 mentors. The mentors don't have to have like a past. Like, that's sometimes people ask like, well, can I mentor? I've never been to prison. I'm like, no, that's irrelevant. We just want to put good, solid men in the lives of these boys. So it doesn't matter. Church is a place that I've pulled some, from the gym. From my gym is where I've pulled a lot. We've had some men come on recently, especially a guy, Greg Potts. He's a realtor, a broker. He came in the past 2 months and has taken us completely to the next level. I was winging all this. I'm texting 14 kids like, hey, we got this event. Like, I'm trying to figure out rides. He's got systems now to where these boys get an email once a month where they do their check-in, and just like a CRM that keeps everything on. It's just because I know none of that stuff. So he's really just showed up and like taken us to the next level, which is really cool. So it's like some people come in and aren't even mentors and are just helping with the backdoor stuff, or like,
admin or something.
Anything like that. So it's been really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I'll put you on the spot. We love stories. We love good stories. You don't have to name names, and probably shouldn't anyway, but like a story of a kiddo that just stood out in this journey so far that you've seen the change in them or anything like that.
Yeah.
I know you got some.
Man, my favorite one, the first kid that ever signed up for the program, and he came from that lady that I was telling you about. His name's Jerry. When we first met him, he had been kicked out of school, kicked off the football team for like smoking some sort of like little vape pen or something in the bathroom. I think he got caught with something like that. And this kid, I didn't say his last name, I don't think, did I?
Nope.
No.
Okay, good. So this kid, his dad would like, I'm talking weekly, I'm coming to see you. I'm going to come see you from Waco, and just no-show him like constantly. And this kid is like special, man. He's huge. So anyways, I was like, well, what are we going to do? Like, what's the next step? Like, you're going to get back on the football team. So we got him back into a school. We got with the football coach. We got him back on the football team. So he's just got, I did driver's ed with him. So I drove around with this kid for like 60 hours in my truck, scared to death. Like,
I've been doing it right now. It's terrifying.
Yeah. It's scary. Yep. Drove around with this kid, taught him to parallel park. He's just doing amazing. It's just, he's never missed a community service. He's at every event. He's just so like dialed in, man. And his mom will just call me and say, this is not the same kid. Like, his mom,
that's awesome.
She'll call me and she's so thankful. And we actually got a truck, an F-150, like a 2000 F-150 donated to us 2 weeks ago. And we're gifting that to him for when he gets his driver's license.
Sorry to spoil it, Jerry. I know you're listening to.
Yeah, Jerry. Jerry's going to be like, oh, yeah.
Dude, that is so awesome. How good of a feeling is that? You're cheesing right now, right?
No,
like you're smiling ear to ear.
It's so cool, man. It's so cool. I get more out of it probably than the kids do. One of the big things for me with it is it helps me with accountability, because instead of having, 3 drinks, I'm going to stop it at 2. You know what I mean? Or like if I go out to dinner with my family and I have a drink, I know that, hey, I'm not going to have enough to where you know what I mean?
There's a lot on the line.
There's a lot on the line. Yeah. It makes me just have to walk the line a little bit safer. I mean, I probably shouldn't have any drinks, but you know what I mean? Like I have to think about them now, because what happens if I have 3 drinks and I'm driving home and I get pulled over and now I have a DUI, and you lose credibility. Now these kids are like, man, he get in trouble, so it's helped me a lot with staying out of, just being smart about what I'm doing.
Yeah. Sometimes my experience has been sometimes in these programs that are affiliated with schools, Jesus needs to sit on the sideline. How's Jesus interface here?
I'm glad you said that. I have to be very careful when I go into the schools. I can't talk about God.
Yeah.
But what I can do, and what I've actually learned from having conversations like this and people giving me advice, is I can share parables and I can share things. I just can't necessarily like say, this is from the Bible.
Yeah.
So I'll teach lessons and stuff like that are straight out of the Bible.
Yeah.
And
welcome back, my prodigal son.
Yeah. The prodigal son's a big one.
I bet.
I did an entire, I heard the prodigal son one time preached, but it wasn't like that times. They did it in current times where the son left and went to Vegas, and like, so it was like a spin on it.
Sure.
And I did a podcast that way, and I shared the same story with the boys and it just was so much more impactful, because they're not, I'm just like showing about the guy was at the strip club wasting his money and he was doing drugs in Vegas, and the boys could then relate to understand, because they know that type of life, rather than the kid was this guy was like feeding pigs, but you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it was like, so just like different spins like that. But once we will mention God all the time once it's outside of the school and it's our own setting.
Your own rules.
Yeah, like Kenny Gant's now a pastor, so he was sharing a bunch of stuff about that, which I didn't even know. It was just a blessing to have him be able to like come from that side of things.
Yeah.
So that was really cool.
So once you get this sounds nefarious. I don't mean it like this. But once you kind of get them off campus, it's your program.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
then we can share whatever we want. We can take them. Sometimes I'll have the kids if they want to. If they ask if they want to go to church, we'll take them to church with us.
Yeah.
But we kind of have to check with the parents. That's a big one. Is just once they sign these waivers, right? So they got to sign waivers, for liability and stuff. But we still keep the parents like involved as much as we can. One of the first things I try to tell these parents is we're not trying to replace you guys.
Yeah, no.
Like we're not trying to like replace parents. We just want to come alongside and walk next to your son through these next. Another thing that people really like about our programs is we don't drop kids at 18. So right when a kid graduates at 18, most programs that are government funded by like grants and stuff like that, they reach that 18, that money's gone, so they drop the kids. I think from 18 to 20 or 18 to 21 are the harder years to figure out than high school. You're structured. You got to go to school. You got to do this. There's struggles there. But what about 18 once you're now an adult and you're allowed to like kind of do what you want and have – so they stay in the program until they're 20. And then at 20, they circle back in and become junior mentors.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
Jordan isn't graduate. When you get the Jordans, that doesn't mean you're out of the program. That's kind of just the next phase.
You just hit a milestone.
That's really just 4 months are done and you've done what you're supposed to do the last 4.
Now you're in.
Now here's another 4 months. You do that, you get another pair of Jordans. So Jerry's gotten like 4 or 5 pairs of Jordans.
Hey, can I sign up for the program?
So
I got good.
Stewie's pretty troubled.
I get good grades though too, so my grades will be fine.
So you'll be good. Yeah, attendance. And
yes, attendance will be fine. Trying to get need.
It's in Mansfield, bro.
That's a big barrier.
So we just brought on a guy who his name's Andis. He's actually top 40 under 40 in Austin, and he came up to kind of see. He kind of heard about what we were doing. He came up to watch. And he loved what we did so much last Saturday that he has actually now been invited to be on our board and in hopes of starting a branch in Austin.
Oh, that's cool.
So we want to try to like have branches in different areas. Just saying that scares me because I'm like, how does that stay organized? Like, how does that work? Because I don't understand systems. Like, that's not my thing. But that's why you have to get the people that do,
You get the right person that believes in the purpose and wants to really make an impact in their community. The rest will figure itself out.
That's kind of
it will.
Well,
just like it has in your journey.
No, it's true. It's true.
It's like we were talking about with video equipment. Was it earlier? I forget. It's like you can't focus on having all the right stuff. Just do something, and it's going to work itself out.
It's so true.
Take a baby step out of faith, and the next one's going to. It's that sort of thing. So, and it's going to be messy for sure. I mean, my wife is involved with a nonprofit that does something different but similar, and it's a collection of volunteers and part-timers, and it's kind of a mess, right? But it's a mess moving forward and grabbing kids and moving them in the right direction. It's perfect.
That's exactly how it is. A mess, dude. It's a mess. I can make it sound like it's all structured and perfect, but it's a mess. Because when you're not paying people, like I don't take any salary out of this, and neither do any of our directors. All the money goes back into these boys. Maybe years down the road, once it's structured and it's like right, and I'm pouring more. But that's not the point of this. I didn't start this as a business,
right?
So I don't pay any of the mentors. So therefore, like I can't hold them to like any standards of like, oh, what do you mean you can't come on Thursday? Like, so you know what I mean? So it's hard. It's just like when they can make it and stuff like that. So,
and I think that's a barrier for a lot of people. So I want to highlight that with mentors. Our listeners, if you're not like directly mentoring somebody, or like you have fear of you might not know, or to your point, like, well, I don't have that checkered past. Can I do it? At the end of the day, it's consistency. Like, can you just be there? And like, even if you don't have a lot of great things to say, like just consistently being there for those kiddos. Like I've learned that at youth ministry because I'm like you, man. I can't David Fultz the Bible, like, and just recite verses and naturally in conversations. I got consistency. Yeah. If I commit to it, I'll keep showing up, and it's a key ingredient.
I'm so glad you brought that up because that is the ingredient. That's what these boys have never had, is a consistent male. I mean, not all of them. And again, I don't mean to stereotype, but a lot of most of the boys in our program have never had a consistent male. So a lot of times it's awkward in the beginning, right? I pair a 50, 60-year-old white man with this young African-American boy, right? There's look at the gap, the culture gap, everything. But when that young boy starts to see the consistency of this man, even if he's not saying, if he doesn't even know what to say, even sometimes in the beginning, it's so awkward. I've had one mentor that couldn't do it. He said, Shawn, I don't know what to talk to him about. I feel like I don't know like what to say. And that's okay. Maybe, and hey, I love you. Like, you're cool. Thank you for like trying, you know what I mean? Like, maybe you help us and now he does our accounting. Now he's our finance guy.
Huge help.
Yeah. He does something different. It's just his skill set or purpose is not to be on the one. So it can be tough, because the things they're interested in, it's not, you know what I mean? There's not much common ground, but the consistency is what makes it work.
Yeah, the consistency, and I was having the thought around the idea of keeping them in the program after they graduate, because you don't know when that moment's going to hit where they're like, I don't really want to go to Topgolf. I would like to sit down and talk about this really important thing that I don't know what to do.
Yeah. And
that might be at 16 or it might be at 22, and you don't know when it's going to come, but the consistency breeds the conversation, which all of a sudden Jerry, I'm using air quotes here, says like, I really need to talk to Brad about that.
Yeah.
And I hopefully I catch him next week.
Dude, the best has been Paul Ficina, dude. Like, he came and did a financial literacy course for these boys. He put so much into this, dude. I'm talking, he had slideshows. He had this presentation. He had details for it was awesome, dude. Like, he could package that up and sell it. Like, it was that good. He put that much effort into it. Paul, that man's 0 to 100 miles an hour of anything
I just wish he would bring some passion.
Yeah, man, that was nothing but passion. This guy's sweating teaching about financial literacy, literally. I'm talking, and Paul.
You got to meet him at the book launch, maybe?
Oh yeah,
muscle dude.
Yes.
Yeah. He's amazing. He's an amazing person. He's one of my favorite people that I've ever met. And he's just so genuine. And if he has your back, dude, like, it literally makes me kind of like want to tear up. Like, that dude will do anything. You know what I mean? Like,
his response to the first bad review.
He was like, "Let's ride."
Yeah, well, he said, "Give me the address. I'll crap in their mailbox."
That's what. Yeah, I was like, "Oh man."
Okay, yeah, I know this guy.
Yeah,
air quotes and specifically.
Oh, dude, he's the best.
He's great, man. But he's been so consistent, dude. And like, two of our boys, when they first came into the program, were very angry, right? Or they just came off as angry, right? And now I've got a picture I posted on our Second Chance at 2ndChance Mentors, the number 2 for second at 2ndChance Mentors on Instagram, and you can see this picture of Paul with these two young boys hugging him and smiling. And those were the two kids that came into the program angry.
Mm-hmm.
It's so crazy, but Paul's just been so consistent. The day Paul's speech is called "Go and Get It," like, get up and go get it. Like, it's yours. You just got to go get it, right? So Paul, after that speech or his class, we got in the truck to go do community service. And the one boy was like, "Hey, Mr. Shawn." I was like, "Hey, what's going on?" And he's like, "I'm ready to go get it."
Yes.
He had a job at QT that following week and has not spent a penny of his paychecks in 4 months. Like, he shows us his accounts because he's trying to, and he's like, "How much do I have before I can invest?" Like, he literally listened to every single segment of Paul's thing and is like trying to put it in that.
Power of one.
Do you realize that boy's
it's
life is completely different than at this point? He's about to buy a car with the money. He's like, it's crazy. That kid rides his bike at QT. You have an app and you can look. He gets out of school, he pulls up the app, and then any QT within 20 miles that like someone called out will say like, "Hey, we need somebody." So he can accept it, and this boy will ride his bike like miles to get to work. Like, his work ethic, man, it's just incredible, dude. And it's just cool to see that, like, and the influence of like one speech from Paul, his motivation. We went to Paul's house. Paul bought Wendy Burgess, the tax collector's house. So you can imagine this house it's got its own zip code, basically. Like, it's huge. It's got these boys petting these horses, and like, it's just, and now and Paul being like, "You guys can live in this house." Like, there's no reason why you guys can't live in this house. You know what I mean? It's just, I have chills right now just talking about it.
We got to get him on.
Oh, he would be.
First, before we do, I need to take that review down though.
Yeah, right.
But I searched for it and couldn't find it.
It doesn't matter.
There's no words. Somebody just hit 2 stars, but didn't actually type this book is terrible review. They just hit 2 stars. I looked for it yesterday too.
I looked too. Yeah, I don't know. But you know what? That's one thing. When you put yourself out there like you did by writing a book, like we do with these podcasts, when you put yourself out there, I haven't had a bad review yet. But
Yet.
I know yeah. I know they're coming. It's
totally.
and you have to, I don't know. You got to be able to do it. You just smile and laugh it off.
Laugh it off, man.
You know what I mean? Like you're not everybody is going to like us, right?
Totally.
Well, it doesn't matter because if your perspective, to come back to the point you just made, is changing one person,
Yeah, dude.
that whatever the negativity, like it doesn't matter because for a million of those don't matter if you get one
person,
kid who's going to be like, I'm gonna go get it.
That's so good. Yeah,
it doesn't matter. The negativity doesn't matter.
That's true.
So who cares?
Coming back to that, I got to remember that to always come back to like, because I get really anxious about the program sometimes. I'm like, are we doing enough? Like, what more should we be doing? Like, why do we only have 14 kids and not 400? Like, what's wrong? And then if I can come back to that, dude, if one of these kids is life changing,
it was worth it.
Then we're doing the right thing.
And I'll tell you this is something Ashley, my wife, says about a variety of things. But you don't have to necessarily have like that increment or that monumental impact like this. All you have to do is tip the ball.
Yeah.
Because if you tip the ball here and you change it by a half of a degree, the long trajectory of that is miles away from where it would have been. So you don't have to have the I'm going to go get it story. Just a seed that changes a trajectory, that makes a new decision that you may not ever know. Maybe 30 years from now and you bump into him and you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I had no idea this was, but holy, so
it's like planting a seed, right?
It's exactly like that. It's exactly like
even if we don't see the harvest.
Yeah.
But they do. That's all that matters, man.
It's hard to accept that fully. Like, hey, I planted the seed and then I don't know if I'm even going to get to see it to like blossom or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because selfishly, you want to see it, right?
Totally.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So you're crazy if you don't want to see it.
Selfishly, though, that's the application word there is selfishly, because if you take yourself out of it, the harvest is not for you, right? Like it's your job is to be faithful. Your job is to show up. And God takes care of the rest of it.
Yeah, and there's business parallels to that too. Like, how much better is the programming currently with 14 versus 400, based on the structure and based on the number of people and based on how you get to personally lead?
So true.
Into that, all that.
So true. You have 400 kids and people are falling through the cracks left and right. And then what? Then what?
Another person
you have worse program than a 14.
Another person failed me.
Yeah.
Like, like it could have the reverse effect.
So I'm glad you said that, because one of our big things is we make sure that if a person wants to become a mentor, now if they try and it's just not a fit, then that's okay. But if they accept that role, they have to be like not looking to move anywhere in the next like couple years. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, because these boys have had so many men in and out, or maybe not so many, but at least some impactful ones in and out of their life, that we really need them to be like stable. Like, hey, if you're taking this responsibility on, we need to make sure that you're like committed, you know?
Yeah.
They do that with the William. Well, we go to Watermark. I should say we're members at Watermark. They do that with the boys for their small group. Like there are young men who've raised their hand and said, I'm going to roll with these kids. Yeah. And I forget when they started. It might be 5th or 6th grade. And they've made a 7-year commitment to see them through high school. Not raise their hand, really say, I'm here. I'm here for this. I ain't going anywhere. I'm not quitting. I'm in for the ride. And shout out to those guys, because they've been hanging with William, and Hayes has my 15-year-old, my 13-year-old. They have their own separate groups, and those dudes, they roll with those boys.
Watermark does amazing things. Re-engage and the marriage thing is awesome. Regeneration is one for people that struggle with, habits, hurts, or hangups, like addictions and stuff like that. Dude, both those programs now are like, other churches are like paying them to run them themselves. They're so good.
Yes. Yeah, there's awesome. Lots of great ministry opportunities to get engaged or involved or whatever.
Yeah.
That's really people think of church as being like on Sunday, and churches model themselves differently, but Watermark is church all week. Like you go up there right now.
There'll be something
going packed on. Right now, I promise. There's something going on always.
That community is so important.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what that brings is, same thing with where you're at. Life Church is the same way.
Yeah. Well, and what you're doing professionally and in ministry. Right. Yeah. That community is a big power of it.
Yeah,
for sure.
So important.
Before we get off the Second Chance, so you have Second Chance Fitness locations in Midlothian and Mansfield?
Correct. Yeah. So we're in Mansfield is the original location, on Cooper, 157, right when you get to Mansfield. So like south of the mall. And then Midlothian, we just opened in December on 67 across the street from the Midlothian Police Department. And that one we opened in December and it's rocking and rolling. It's really cool. I think it's the members, dude. It's the members that come to our gym that make our gym so awesome. Like people come and for their first time and someone's like, hey, come work out with me. Like, don't be, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Going to a gym is intimidating, especially as a woman. You know what I mean? I would say our main clientele is like your soccer mom kind of like type, doesn't want to go spend hours in the gym because our workouts are 35 minutes. They get a custom meal plan and we track their measurements.
Mm-hmm.
So they get like a full personal trainer and the membership's like $127 for 6 weeks. So it's really a great deal. $20 a week to have all that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really been, but yeah, so those are the 2 locations. The mentorship office, we run out of our Mansfield gym.
Mm-hmm.
But that's normally more like off location type stuff.
Yeah.
What's a hit? Maybe we should do it at the end. I was going to do contact info. We'll do it here. But
websites for each.
Websites, contact info, how to somebody's listening and thinks, well, I actually live in Mansfield and I'd like to figure out how to get involved with the mentor program.
Yeah,
hit us with
absolutely.
some contact info here.
That's awesome. So the mentorship program, all of the seconds, anytime I say second is the number 2.
Yeah.
I wish I would have thought that out a little bit more and probably bought them both. You know what I mean? Just because, but I didn't. So Second Chance Mentors is 2ndChancementors.org. Okay, that's the website. And any of the social media is at Second Chance Mentors. The gym is secondchancefitcamp.com.
Gotcha.
Second Chance Fit and then camp.com. And those are all at Second Chance Fit Camp Midlow or at Second Chance Fit Camp Mansfield for the social medias.
Gotcha. So that'll give you, if you're interested, jumping in with a mentor, jumping in to figure out if you help, if you got a specific gifting set, this is from, there you go. That's how you get connected.
Thank you.
Yeah, man.
And I just want to give you a shout out before we spin out of that into family of that's not normal, that whole 50 people follow you day one thing. So like you found your purpose and it's that energy, it's that passion, it's that caring for people. And that's why they are, man, because that's not normal day one to have that success where you're out punting your expenses 2 months in, man. So I'm really proud of you. That's awesome. I was going to put you on the spot, like why, and you have to look in the mirror and you're like, oh, I don't want to spotlight myself. I'll do it for you, man.
I would say it's 100% God thing. Like,
yeah, fair.
Like literally, dude, if you look, it doesn't even make sense. If you look at from the day I got out of prison to every single like opportunity that has been presented, and you know what I mean? Like there's no way that I could have done it. Like it's not me. I'm not the best looking or smartest or like I don't have some crazy skill set. You know what I mean? So I just totally give it all to God on that.
Should have asked him. Great answer.
Yeah, he should ask. We should redo that.
Nah,
just kidding.
No, but I'm not just saying that. Like I know that sounds cliche, but I really believe that wholeheartedly because I by myself look at how I did it before by myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I still struggle. Like I'm not perfect. I still struggle with like, thoughts and stuff that I don't act on now, but I've got too many great things going and too much. Now I have these boys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that alone is like for me. And I know that it helps me keep it all together.
Yeah.
And you have one son at home that so we're connected on social media.
Yeah.
You're pounding the passenger seat floorboards, hitting the brakes right now because he's learning to drive. I assume.
Man, well, you're gonna put us out there like that. He's 13. I let him drive around the back. I let him drive around the neighborhood a little bit. It was a back road neighborhood. I let him drive a little bit. I mean, he's actually a great driver. My son, his name's Caden. So remember when I got out of prison, he was 6.5 years old. I got full custody of him immediately. And I know everyone, everyone's kid is special. This boy there's something special about him. My mom did an amazing job helping out when I was gone. Like she was just 100% all in. She didn't want to. She said no. My mom was like, I'm done raising kids. Like, what do you mean? You go to prison, you want to raise your kid? She said no. But then after a couple circumstances and some things that went on, she said, okay, I realized that this is what I'm supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
He's got this confidence in him that I can't even explain. Like at 9 years old, he would walk into like T-Mobile and go straight up to the manager and like talk to them about how do I figure out why my phone's not working? You know what I mean? Like most 9-year-olds, your parents are having to do that. I mean, he's calling places and like trying to figure out the details of stuff. It's just crazy the confidence that he has. That I didn't have, so
that's a gift. And is that your only kid?
Yeah, just got one.
So I have the benefit of having 3 and seeing across all of them, and they're not all like that.
Yeah,
and they're all gifted differently, but that is like he's uniquely gifted to have that.
Yeah, he's got this confidence, and it's crazy, and people notice it. People are like, man, this kid this kid's 12 years old. You know what I mean? Like, what? That's last year. I remember people saying that and asking if he was really like just the way he, I don't know, really, we're really blessed to have such an amazing little boy.
Yeah.
And my wife has, my wife, Christy, that I'm married to now, this is my second marriage, but she went all in as a mom, like, and she's been just an amazing role model to him, and she's a great person, and she accepted him from day one as like, you know what I mean? So that's been really special.
What's Christy do?
Christy, now she sold roofing for a while. She would actually get up on the roof with her little tiger claw boots, and she never had a claim not bought by an adjuster. So that's like her claim to fame. You know what I mean?
Awesome.
Because when an adjuster shows up, they're not expecting to see some little 5-foot blonde. Do you know what I mean? Up on the roof with cougar paws. You know?
Yeah.
So she did really well with that. Now she does. She sells Medicare supplements to retired teachers. And she loves it because like it's really things that these teachers need.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
Long-term care, short-term care, dental, you know, like she loves it because she just gets to go like spend time with these older people and, you know, help make sure they're set up, you know, and it's because they're retired teachers. I think that's called TSA or something. I forget exactly what it's called, but because they're retired teachers, they get better rates than, you know, the regular general public. So she's able to like help them out with stuff like that. And she loves it because she feels like she's actually helping these people. So
I mean,
cool.
We talked about not being political before we started and like the pitfalls of that. So I won't, but just for a second, like the teacher retirement system is a disaster.
100%.
And so she actually, I mean, that's not just cliche. Like that is a vacancy. That is a space that needs to be filled. So she probably like actually is getting like a lot of joy in like helping these people who don't know what to do with them.
She was in Austin 2 weeks ago when they had a hearing to see if they were going to increase the retired teachers' pay. And they, for the first time in like a lot of years.
Time.
I don't want to make a number up, but I remember being like longer than 10 years.
I would have blurted out 20. My mom's a retired teacher. It's been a long time.
I think it's close to 20 years.
Yeah.
They finally gave them a cost of living increase. Dude, that's the single most important job in the world as being a teacher. Like, right.
Dude.
And I'm like, and so many teachers are leaving the profession now because of just things going on in schools and again, not to get political, but just stuff going on in schools and their pay, and like you can't support a family like off of just a teacher's income really anymore. Like it's sad, you know?
And you see, so my daughter is about to be 6 in August, and we've shifted schools twice. We've shifted from one daycare to the next, and you know why if you remember our story in the studio, which I won't share. And then kindergarten school from one public school to another, and the shift in her learning, like you can see it. Yeah. Over the course, it doesn't even take a school year, like 1 week to the next when you get a good teacher pouring into your kid. Oh my goodness.
You can tell.
And you see the opposite.
Yeah.
It's either a flat line or we start bringing some things home that you're like, where did you get that from? You know, and we've experienced both. So, I mean, can't stress it. We could do a whole series on the importance of teachers.
We had a fun moment with Stella. So we were in San Antonio last week. I guess now it's 2 weeks ago for a basketball tournament. Yeah. And we had been to this story stinks. I'll finish it quickly. I had some self-awareness in the middle of it, but it's not going to stop. I'm not deterred. So she had been to the Alamo before, didn't remember it. So she wanted to go. So we went to Alamo. We're standing there, and we're talking about it, and she doesn't know anything about the Alamo. And I was like, "Didn't y'all have Texas history this year?" She's like, "Yeah." You don't know anything about the Alamo? No. She's like, "We learned a little bit about some Indian tribes that used to live around here." And I was like, "What were they?" "I don't know." Okay. I was dumbfounded. So to quadruple down on that point.
That's not a bad story because it's how do you live in Texas and not know about the Alamo? Like I remember learning about the Alamo growing up in Philadelphia.
Oh, really?
Was that Davy Crockett?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, like.
Yeah, Davy. There's a funny Davy Crockett. What is it?
Don't look at me.
Something about you and y'all can all go to hell because I'm going to Texas or something like that. That's allegedly what Davy Crockett said whenever he chucked the deuce to Tennessee and came down here to fight. So anyhow.
You should be a history teacher. They could connect. Chuck the deuce.
Chuck the deuce. Davy headed to Texas when he chucked the deuce to Tennessee.
Yeah, people will remember it then.
Right. And how could you forget the Alamo, right? Like it's the one thing you're supposed to remember.
And don't forget the Alamo. That's so funny.
Oh my gosh. I'll cut all that out. That was stupid. What do you do for fun? We'll kind of wind ourselves out here. We go hobbies, family, books, one big thing.
I would say for fun, my favorite thing to do is play golf. I play a couple times a week.
Are you any good or you just like it?
I'm like a 12, 13 handicap. I shoot mid 80s.
Solid,
Like
salty.
I've shot in the high 70s once, but I can go shoot 92, 93 regularly too. So it's, you know how golf is. I think golf is the absolute hardest sport that there is. I've never forgot how to throw a baseball. I've never forgot how to shoot a basketball. I've never forgot how to throw a football, but I can go play golf today and seem like I've never swung the club before.
Yeah, dude. Agreed.
Like and I think that's why I like it so much, because it's so hard. It's like such a mental game.
Yes.
And I just like to be competitive, and it's super competitive. So that's what I like to do. I like being in nature. I like to feel like, I feel connected to God on the golf course. I say that all the time. And my wife likes me to go because when I'm in golf, I'm so thankful for her. So I'm like super nice to her. She's like, don't you want to go play golf if I'm grumpy? She'll like, go play golf. I'm like, okay. Sold.
Got it.
Yeah. My son's really into like fishing. Like we went a couple weeks ago to this thing called Squad STX, which was in Glen Rose at Dinosaur State Park thing. It was a retired Army Ranger put it on, where you only got to take what you could fit in your bag, and you hiked. It was 2 days long. You hike, and then you would set up all you got was like what are they called? Not a tent, but a tarp, right? All you got was a tarp and 4 strings each night to set up your little tent. It was awesome. It was a really cool experience with my son.
I hope that was before it was a gazillion degrees outside.
It was actually, I don't know if you'll remember this, maybe a month ago, there was like the worst thunderstorm that we've had in like
I do remember.
The one I sent, like that day, the Sunday?
The one with yes. So it happened on Saturday night going into Sunday.
Yeah.
So we were in the mountains. I'm talking, I've never seen lightning like that. Our tarp, we actually did a really good job putting our tarp up, but you couldn't stop the water coming under it because it's just a tarp. It's not a tent. So me and my son are like back to back, but whatever. It was a great experience. Like it was something we'll remember forever. It was really cool. So
that's awesome.
He loves fishing. He really likes the outdoors. He really likes shooting firearms, which I think is really cool. Unfortunately, I can't take him to do that because, that one time I got in trouble, I lost my rights for life to be able to be around firearms, which hopefully one day they'll look into some legislation to change that. You know what I mean? If you don't have any violence or any, like I feel like, but so we have some great people. I've had to learn that it's okay to let other men. This sounds weird, but other men like love your kid, like other people love your kid, So my he spends a lot of time with my ex-wife's kind of boyfriend, who's a great guy, awesome guy, really. And then one of his uncles will take him shooting a lot and stuff like that. So I used to get like kind of jealous of it, but but then my mom was like, dude, you can never have too many people that love your kid,
right?
So.
And you never know. Kind of back to the point with the mentorship program, you never know when there'll be a moment when you need somebody to talk to, and for whatever reason, it ain't you.
And that's going to happen. Probably already does. You know what I mean? You don't want to come to your dad like about just certain things,
right? So having other folks around is not a bad thing.
Yeah,
for sure.
No, it's good. I just say it's like a mentor. You got a mentor there, and so that's really cool.
All right, so 2-step out.
Yeah,
books and one big thing. You're a reader. Do you read books?
I do.
Do you read books? That should be a funny quote.
Can you read words?
I can. I read an amazing book last week. It was called The Mountain Mover Manual.
Oh, tell me more. I was thinking about teeing that joke up, but you just did it perfectly. Tell me more about that book.
So listen, no, but seriously, something about that book is I got the book. I happened to have met the guy, the author, and I was like, cool, yeah, I'll read this book. And I didn't know, what I was really getting myself into when I was reading the book, right? So I get like
Kevin's face is priceless.
I get like 3/4 through the book, and I'm like, dude, this is actually really good. And I text him, and I'm like, dude, Kevin, like, I just want to let you know this book is actually really good. Like, I'm not just because I want to differentiate from everybody that's your friend is telling you that this book is good, right?
Sure.
No one's like, man, what is this? And no one thinks their own baby is ugly, right? Like, so I wanted you to, like, I was like texting you that, like, because I wanted you to know, man, this, and then you brought that up to me the other day. You were like,
the word actually meant a lot to me.
Yeah.
Because it told me you were surprised, like, that it was good. Like, it's like whether you had doubts or like, I have to read this out of formality, like that sort of thing. You're like, oh, no, this is good. And because it is the friends and family reviews right now. Yeah. Like, if Stewie thinks it's hot trash, he's still going to be like, boy, did it.
Awesome. No, it is good. And because there's so much practical, and I didn't mean to just plug the book here, but there's so much practical, so many books that I read, like especially like self-help type stuff, have bigger theories in them, but I need that broken down into smaller steps.
Oh yeah.
And I really feel like that's what your book does. I feel like it really breaks it down into small steps, like find your tribe, you know what I mean? All the little details that are important to set yourself up even to get to the next step, you know? So no, you did a great job with that.
Thank you, man. Appreciate that.
I feel like a lot of the commentary reviews, people chattering about it, use the word practical. It's like, it's doable. It's like, oh, this is a blueprint. This is, that's exactly what you're saying.
And that's exactly what it is too.
This is how you do it.
Another book that I read was When People Are Bigger Than God. I think that was the name of it. And it was about, I struggle with like caring too much about what people think about me. And this book was like, there's times where I even care more about what some random stranger walking down the street thinks about me than God does. And I have to make sure that I'm making that I'm checking that. You know what I mean? Like I'll wear some special shoes so that this random kid walking down the street looks at my shoes and thinks I'm cool. But am I doing the extra steps to make sure that who really matters, like that my son and my wife are looking at me like that? You see what I mean?
What was the name of that book?
Is this it? When People Are Big and God Is Small by Welch?
That is
Edward Welch.
Changed my life.
Tagged it already
to get that.
Changed my life because it's just amazing. And it's just so many smaller concepts that really make you. And being able to say that is, at first, that used to have power on me to be able. I wouldn't say that, be vulnerable and say that I worry too much about what people think, because everyone else is like, I don't care about what people think. Oh, I don't care about what people think. You hear that all the time, right? Like,
oh yeah,
it's just not true for me.
Oh, dude, I mean, we've talked about a lot in here, like talking about slinging dope, like it's about supply and maybe money, but like being accepted is a piece of the pie.
Dude, I don't even know if I went into that, but that was the biggest reason I sold drugs, was because that false sense of being the man, of like people wanting and needing me. Like it made me feel important and valued. And as soon as I turned that scale off, no one was there.
Yeah.
No one. I don't think maybe one person wrote me the whole 6 years I was gone. And I had like hundreds of people that were, air quotes, my best friend. You know what I mean? Oh, Shawn, you're my best friend. Can I get that for $20 less? Or, you know what I mean? Like, but then they all scattered in like, I mean, that's what you expect, really.
Yeah.
But there's another book that I read that was extremely powerful for me in prison. And this isn't a Christian book, okay? So you have to read this with a grain of salt, but it was called The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle.
Yeah.
And it was just I live my life. So you have in the past, you don't experience any pain in the now. The pain comes from the regret of the past or worry of the future. So as long as we're staying grounded in the now, and you can make it a Christian perspective too. It is still a Christian perspective. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But he's more of like a kind of a Buddhist type, like, enlightenment type stuff. But dude, that book, especially while I was in prison, really helped me to be able to, like, while I was just stuck there, having to realize, okay, this all sucks. Thinking about what's happening in the future, thinking about what happened in the past. But right now, I'm safe. I can, you know what I mean? I'm healthy. I have,
I think there's a double weird connection to that book here. And I think I have the biggest catalog of what happened in this room in my mind. But someone has recommended that book before. And I think it was Erica with Prison Fellowship.
That'd be crazy.
I'm almost 100% sure. We had, I can't think of her last name off the top of my head. Erica.
I never even told you that. So do you know Prison Fellowship, the organization?
No, but I want to get into getting back somehow. I've been looking for how to get my foot in the door to get back into prisons.
We need to make a connect there.
Erica's awesome. She was on as a guest, and then him and I did this 100-mile challenge where anybody that wanted to join had to either complete 100 miles or donate $100. But even the people that completed donated $100, and it was all for Prison Fellowship.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
Sorry. Anyway, I think that's I think that triangle is like eerily connected to that book.
Cool,
so that's super cool. So that's a good one. All right. One big thing. This I'll give you I'll talk over the top of it so you can kind of get your mind around it. But the gist of kind of ending the podcast, what we call the one big thing is, your life's travels, all the things you've learned, the people you've been bumped into, the work that you're doing now, all the things. Like if you could leave the listeners with one like big sort of salient, poignant sound clip here, what's the one big thing?
I feel like the biggest thing that I've gotten out of a lot of this stuff is you're never completely down and out. Like you can overcome anything if you're just willing to put the effort in and willing to humble yourself. And sometimes you might look kind of dumb. Like I felt like I looked stupid coming out of prison and trying to, you know what I mean? But you can't just stay down. Like you can overcome stuff. You just have to, I'm not sure how to word that.
That's good.
But
good
I just feel like so many times we hit rock bottom and we just stay there, or people or just stay there instead of like, because you lose your confidence, you lose your self-esteem, and but you don't have to, you know what I mean? You can overcome pretty much anything. So I think that's probably like what I feel like is kind of my life story or whatever, is I wasn't willing to just lay down and accept being a drug dealer, prison convict for the rest of my life. Like I was going to change it and do something better with it.
That's a great one big thing, man.
For sure.
Yeah,
You're never out.
Yeah. Never out. That's a good way to put it.
One more shout out too. Shawn has a podcast called Forgiven AF.
Yep.
What is AF?
Always faithful.
Yeah. So
but the AF is to kind of catch, you know what I mean? To get people to be like, oh, what? I've had people text me, AF, do you think that's appropriate for a podcast? And I'm like, what does it mean? Like, that stands for always faithful, forgiven and always faithful.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, check that out if you want. It's called Forgiven AF. It's on every, iTunes, Spotify, all those, and then YouTube. And we try to do like exactly what this the one big thing was. We try to bring people who, have overcome hard things and, gotten back on track after, tough situations, and just positive, and that's about it.
Well, thanks for hanging out with us, sharing your story, spending time, just having a conversation. Sometimes it feels like the microphones disappear and the recording goes off and it's just homies talking. It's just how it felt today too. So
yeah, this
thanks for
was
hanging
awesome.
out, man.
You guys are doing, this is really cool what you guys are doing and how you have this all set up.